Sorry about that.
That's fine. Do you want us to go back and reapprove the minutes?
Okay, if you would. Sorry about that. Yep, I have two recordings going, my own machine and this one. Yeah, if you would.
All right, now that we've had some good practice, that who wants to make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 8th, 2022 meeting?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes. This is Danny Laurie.
Thank you, Danny. Who wants to second?
Second, it's Tim.
Thank you, Tim. I'm getting that deja vu feeling. Anybody have any comments on the minutes?
Do you want me to make my edits again? So
Um,
under board vacancies, it should be 2 CPA members. And under old business legislation update, it should be CPAs back to going from July 1st to June 30th, not gone.
All right. Any other comments on the minutes? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Public comment, that any comments that Cindy, that welcome, that we have comments at the beginning of the meeting and we have comments at the end of the meeting, and you're welcome to speak at either or both times. Do you have anything that you want to say at the beginning of the meeting?
No, thank you. Not right now. Just Bonnie apologizes she couldn't attend. She had an appointment she couldn't change.
Great, thank you. Under old business, we have a legislation update and reinstatement fees. And Kat is jury rigging some technology together, and she will be handling both of those items.
Yes, good morning. I'm so sorry. The computer is really not cooperating this morning. Just to update you on a few things, the bill that changes the date of the CPEs going back to July 1st to June 30th, it was passed on May 4th, but it has not been signed by the governor into law yet. And then also another good news is on April 28th, the governor signed the bill that allows public agencies to continue holding remote and hybrid meetings indefinitely after April 30th. So we can continue the meeting on Zoom going forward. Also, the House Bill 4248, which also passed on May 4th, but has not been signed into law yet, and it has to do with the criminal background. Bob, can you share screen? I was going to do it, but I don't. No.
It's a little. This is my Zoom is touchy also. I'm afraid that I'll lose this.
All right, so I'm gonna.
I'm sorry.
Share. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, we can see it now. Yep.
Oh, great. All right. So this
I
is
can see
the
it,
bill. Terrific. I just want to show you, this is a bill that passed, and basically it revised section 20-280E, and it added this subsection B, which just says that any individual who has been convicted of a criminal offense may request the board for a determination as to whether that criminal conviction would prohibit them from getting a license. And it spells out what they have to describe in the determination. So it's almost like a declaratory ruling request. And then they have to pay, I think, a fee of not more than $15 to make such request. And then it says that no more than 30 days after the request, the board has to make that determination. And then the last subsection says that the board is not bound by its determination if his criminal conviction, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say his, of the individual's criminal conviction differs from the information presented to the board. So the underlying language is the new language is passed. Also, Section 18 of the Act, the bill also amended Section 20-281A of the statute, and basically it we added the mouse is very sticky. Just not having a good time this morning with computers. Basically, this is the provision that has said that after notice of hearing, the board may revoke, a certificate or license based on the list of offenses. And this basically added that in addition to revoke or suspend, you may also deny an application based on the listed reasons. And, that would include fraud and deceit. And then also, this is like very old law, but it added under criminal conviction that it says you may deny a license or revoke based on conviction of a felony, but only if you have taken into account the nature of the conviction, the rehabilitation, the degree of rehabilitation, and the time elapsed. So this is the language that was passed on in a lot of areas this year. And then that's basically it for the Board of Accountancy.
Could you just remind us of the history of how this got in there?
I'm sorry, I wish I could. I don't know. I think it was a broad-based statewide. It's been going back. I really don't know the history that well. So, but if you like, I can share that next meeting.
That would be great, just so that if anyone asks us questions, we sound intelligent.
Yeah, this was, I attended the NASPA meeting last week at the end of April, and apparently this is very common this year with the other states as well, and not just accountancy. There's a big movement to make it easier to not punish, people with criminal history to get back into society and have a decent livelihood.
Okay.
So that's it for legislation updates. The last thing is the reinstatement fees. As you recall, last meeting, you voted to revise the fees for reinstatement, to increase the fees, and to also require CPEs. Just unfortunately, those revisions cannot be implemented at this time because the statute requires them to be in the regulations. So until we codify them in regulations, we can't implement them. So I just want to let you know that I will draft the regulations and send them to you for revisions and have it all ready for the board to vote on by next meeting.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Kat on the legislative update or the reinstatement fees? All right, thank you, Kat. Let's move on to new business. We've got 2 people applying for the exam extensions that Kat, if you want to, we did not get these the actual applications in advance. So Kat, if you want to summarize the first one for Amanda Hudson.
Sure. Amanda Hudson requested for an extension of her BEC exam credit. It expired on April 1st of this year, and she's requesting for it to be extended till May 31st of 2022. I had sent you the documents supporting her medical condition.
All right, and was it just the medical condition that she requested? Is there any reason, or it sounds like that she did have it scheduled. If I looked at the paperwork correctly, she did have it scheduled for the end of March of 2022, and there was a snowstorm.
Right, but it is based on lack of facilities, but because the lack is based on her condition. Like there were other opening, I believe, facilities, but because they did not have the accommodations. And so in effect, it is based on her condition.
Okay, and how long is she looking for How long of an extension is she looking for?
2 months. It expired April 1st, and she's looking till the end of May. So I'd say it's just April and May. Not
Okay.
very long.
So in the paperwork, it looked to me like on March 28th, she had a exam scheduled, March 28th of 2022, 3 days before it expired. She had it scheduled and Prometric canceled it. I think it was a snowstorm. And she couldn't reschedule it in the next 2 days. It's like a nightmare that happening. Does anyone want to discuss, make a motion on that first, I guess?
I'll make the
Right.
motion to extend it to May 31st is what she's asking for.
Yes, May 31st.
Thank you.
Second.
Carla seconded that. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. The second one is Mark. Oh,
Polkowski.
yes, thank you.
Last meeting, you denied his request, and at the time he requested to have 2 credits extended. One is his audit, and the other one is regulations. His auditing expired January 20th of this year, and his regs credit expired December 23rd, 2021. And he's asking to extend both until March 29th. So again, that's just 3 months. His reason was based on medical, and at the time he, but anyway, let me go back, but you denied his request. And he's asking for a reconsideration.
Is there any new information?
Yes, let me go to his email here.
And if you could just
So-
remind us of,
Sure, of course. At the time, sorry, at the time sorry, I don't know why I'm having problems. So his reason at the time was that he got COVID, and he said that in October 8th, 2021, I experienced COVID symptoms. I tested positive via multiple at-home rapid tests. I do not have any formal documentation from a doctor. When I called my doctor's office, they told me to self-quarantine for 10 days and to go to the emergency room if my systems significantly worsened. It was also determined that a more formal test administered by a doctor's office was not necessary because his symptoms at home and home tests were sufficient. I also do not have HR time off documentation as I work fully remotely, and I never communicated my positive test to my employer as I did not put any of my coworkers at risk. He said that, his COVID has significantly impacted his ability to sit for and pass my only remaining FAR section of the CPA exam. I have attempted to pass, but was ultimately unsuccessful. And so he asked for an extension. And the board denied his request based on the fact that he did not have to take time off work. And so he afterwards, there was not much discussion other than he didn't have to miss any time from work. So we notified him of that, and he said that I do not agree with their decision and would like to appeal. And so I notified him that there is no appeal process. Sorry. I don't know what happened. Oh, hope I didn't lose you again.
No, we can
We can still hear you.
I can see you, Kat.
Okay. I can't see you. So it says that he didn't agree with the board's decision and that he would like to appeal. And I said no, because the regulations says that the board, in its discretion, may extend the time limit for the medical or health or military service reasons. And so I said, but you could ask for reconsideration. So he submitted a reconsideration request. He said, I originally received a denial from the board based on the fact that I did not take time off work when having COVID. I believe not taking time off work while being sick should be viewed as a positive, as it shows I am a dedicated employee. As evidence of my work dedication, I am willing to provide my positive satisfaction reviews for my employer during that time period if necessary. This support displays my work ethics and responsibleness even when contracting COVID during one of the heights of the pandemic. Unfortunately, my dedication to my employer while contracting COVID was overwhelming to the point where I could not properly prepare to take my final CPA exam section. As I mentioned in my original request, continuing to work while contracting COVID did not put my coworkers at risk since I was working remotely. COVID situation was and still is very dynamic, but we often forget the facts of what happened during that specific time period when I contracted COVID-19. In October 2021, the CDC had not have any approved medication for COVID-19. At that time, if an individual tested positive, the recommendation was to remain isolated at home. Doctors denied seeing any individuals who tested positive in person. My COVID symptoms resulted in concentration difficulties, sleep issues, and physical exhaustion. The recovering time was longer than expected, and COVID visibly impacted my life when comparing my achievements and abilities before, during, and after the sickness. Please be mindful of my past circumstances to help me through this difficult time, and remember that I am a newer employee who has been in the labor market only approximately 18 months. Reconsidering my request for an exam extension once more and approving it will allow me to move on with my future dreams and desires. It will show the board's empathy for young professionals attempting to study while simultaneously satisfying their employer through hardship. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for your reconsideration.
Thank you for that. We need a motion and a second before we can have a discussion. Anyone want to make a motion?
Is the motion to reconsider, is that the appropriate motion?
I think since it's already on the agenda that we maybe are reconsidering it, and but Kat can help us lead through that, or are we making a motion for or against and then discussing that?
Right, just a motion to deny or grant his request.
I make a motion to grant his request.
Do we have a second? All right, do we have any other motions that we want to make? We can't discuss it until we at least have, doesn't mean you're going to vote that way. That does anyone want to either second Carla's motion or make a different motion? Dan?
I'm torn on this one.
We're not making a decision. You were just
I'll
trying to get.
second, I'll second Carla's motion to engage in the discussion of it.
All right. It's open for discussion and somehow we've lost Bob.
Yeah. I don't see what changed from the first denial. That's, you know, he didn't provide anything in addition to what we previously, what was previously presented or requested from him. So.
Can
So
I,
go ahead, Carla.
yeah, can I just add why did I do this? And make the motion. I think, I mean, I remember the situation. I just think that upon reconsideration, it seems like what he's asking for is reasonable under those circumstances. And I was struck by one thing, you know, at this point in time, seems like practically everybody I know has had COVID, you know, when they use a lot of Kleenex and sleep a lot for a couple of days, and then that's it. So I think it is hard to remember how bad it was. And it seems like to me, from what he's saying now, he may actually have what they're calling long haul COVID, which, you know, that we know more now, and we're learning more all the time than we did. And that's the basis for my making a motion to approve his request.
But what precedent are we setting with no positive test, no time off of work? How many other people are going to come to us and say that they had COVID and have no documentation? And now we've set a precedent.
Well, I think he said he did have a positive test. It was an at-home test, and the hospital said he didn't need to retake it given his other symptoms. So I'm not sure we can assume that there wasn't proof of COVID. And I guess to a certain extent, I'm sort of willing to take, well, I personally am willing to take a chance with other people coming forward, because it has been an extraordinary situation. That's all I've got to say about that.
If I may, I just want to add that there is, Ms. Marion is correct, there is no documentation of any kind. He didn't even take a picture of his COVID positive test at home. So in this request, there is no documentation of any kind other than his statement.
Any other comments? All right, let's call for a vote to approve his, you're going to say yes if you're going to approve his extension to March 29th, 2022. Is that still the date that he's looking for, Kat?
Yes, he is looking for March 29th, 2022.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? We have 4 against and Carla in favor. So the motion to approve is denied. Do we need to do a motion to specifically deny, or is that enough?
I think that's enough.
Okay, good. Thank you. Moving forward, thank you, Carla, for the empathy that he knows that we have. Moving forward, we want to talk about the hearing and the we've got, it was sent to us a proposed final decision. When we talk about this case 2022-1, the matter of Mark B. Bushka, Kat, as the prosecutor, cannot join us. And we've got a few options here that we can discuss. We can discuss if questions come up. We can go to the Attorney General as our attorney to ask those questions of that attorney. We could discuss and wait to vote until John and Martha are here. So I would say that maybe we discuss it now, see if we have preliminary questions for the Attorney General, and then decide if we're ready to make a decision, or if we do it at the next meeting with John and Martha. Is that
Before, if I may, before I leave for you to discuss, I just want to remind you that you can go to the AGs only for legal questions. Can't help you with making your decision, but if you have a legal question.
Okay,
So
so,
thank you. I will leave now. I will see you next meeting, and I will send you regulations and other things to review before next meeting.
thank you very much, Kat. All right, so we have the document and Bob, do you want to pull that up on the screen? That might be the easiest.
I don't have the document, Marcia.
All right, well, can you make me would it be
Yep.
helpful if I pull it up on the screen, everyone?
You want to, I can make you host, Marcia, would that help?
That would help.
Okay, 1 second.
I think I might be because I have share screen as one of my options. So let me go here.
Okay, I made you the host.
Share screen. All right. So this, and I'm sorry, I did put some notes in there that the introduction is just the case that that is, and we have to make changes to it as we go through, and we take it from here. That so it's the introduction. It's talks about the motion, about the notice that was given to Mr. Bushka, that talks about the findings of fact that, and according to this, the findings of fact that on December from the first license was December 8th, and it expired on December 13th. And he's never received a CPA permit. And so I guess, does this make sense that now that I'm looking at it, it expired on December 13th and has not been registered since at least 2007. Does that make sense to anybody? I would think that. Oh, so maybe the license, so it's saying that he's not registered either. Okay. He's not licensed or registered. Got that. He was provided an opportunity. We saw that in our paperwork that he's been using the CPA and certified public accountants. He's actively practiced public accounting. He has an office that we saw the pictures of that. That he's got signs on there. He's got a social media. We've got it on business correspondence. Since he has been unlicensed, he's done hundreds of tax returns. We've got the count on that. He has said that he did not have a PTIN, that we did have an agreement with him years ago that he would, at that time, that he had fraudulently completed some CPE paperwork, that he would complete the CPE paperwork, right, that he would complete the CPE, that and he would renew his license and he would pay a penalty. He didn't do any of that. He is a member of the Torrington Board of Finance since 2012. He didn't inform them that he let a CPA license lapse and didn't have a firm permit. the highlights there are mine, I'm sorry, that the allegations are that he's been practicing public accountancy without a license. He's been using the CPA designation improperly, that he's got a CPA firm without a firm permit. He's been using that without the CPA and the firm without a firm permit, deceptive advertising, that he's engaged in dishonesty and fraud in the practice of public accountancy. And I do have that pulled up on my other screen if we need to reference that he's engaged in gross negligence, recklessness, or repeated acts of negligence in his professional practice, and willingly failed to file a report or required records by the state or federal law. And then the orders are the consequences, to cease and desist using the designation of CPA, to within 30 days to take down the signs, the social media, the letterhead, the signature blocks, all that say CPA, and once it's completed, send us back a sworn affidavit, to send within 10 days the decision to the city of Torrington, and report back, to send within 30 days to any of the clients that he's done tax returns for, January 1st through May 1st, and send to tell them about this and send that back, to pay a fine of $55,000, and the allocation of that fine is on the paperwork. $9,000 for practicing without a CPA license, $9,000 for using the designation, that $11,000 for a firm without a firm permit, $11,000 for not using for the firm without a CPA designation, deceptive advertising, $5,000, $7,000 for the dishonesty and fraud in practice, $3,000 for gross negligence, and to please pay that by this method, revoking his license, and that he cannot be an owner in a firm going forward. So, any discussion on that?
I
Oh, Martha, thank you.
So other than the holding yourself out to the public as a CPA, this is regarding the Board of Finance that he's on. Obviously, he's very publicly holding himself out as a CPA. My take on the hearing was that the town, or the city of Torrington, wasn't particularly upset about this, which kind of surprised me. Maybe I'm wrong, but is there any was there any requirement through our board or through the statutes that he was supposed to inform them, other than the general, that you can't hold yourself out as a CPA to the public?
So I had that highlighted for full disclosure, and I had asked previously, or I had heard previously, this isn't going to affect my independence. I was the auditor for 3 of those years while he was on the Board of Finance. I'm not sure whether I met him or didn't meet him, that because I was there once to do a presentation, as far as with the Board of Finance, once a year to do a presentation, and he was not the chairman. There is no requirement. I personally thought that we should remove that, because there is no requirement that if you retire and you're on a board and you started as a CPA, that there would be no requirement to tell that board that you're no longer a CPA. So to me, I thought that was a little bit overreaching.
I sort of felt so too. That was just my impression on hearing everything and reading everything. I feel like we have so much to go on against this individual, that adding something that I felt was maybe not supported, or maybe it was a little bit weaker, was not necessary. But I just wasn't sure what the requirements would be. I also didn't know whether on that particular board there is a requirement that they have a CPA or a certain, percentage of persons who are CPAs, certain boards like this board, has I'm a public member, so it has a requirement that there are a certain number of public members versus CPAs. So I didn't know if there's anything like that on that board.
There is nothing like that. She seemed to indicate in her presentation that he was appointed. Generally, they're elected, but there are no requirements for CPAs on the government boards, on those government boards.
Okay.
I think it really varies practically by town. I don't believe my town, Mansfield, has any particular requirements that you have to have certain professional credentials, and our board's not elected either. So I think we almost have to look at what's required in Torrington, and if it's not required that there be any specific professional designations, then I agree that I think it's a little bit overboard given all the other stuff that he's going to be responsible for.
All right, so our first order of follow-up is I'll follow up to see how that board is installed, if it's elected or appointed, and to see if there's any requirements that, and I can do that,
Marcia, I think that was in the evidence that Kat presented, that it was
Oh.
appointed, not, I don't think it's elected, it's appointed.
all right, so
Um,
I'll check.
I'm pretty
and see
sure
if
it was
we-
in the documentation that she had sent along. And I'll just chime in. I had the same kind of reservations about that particular point with regards to, I don't know. It didn't seem like anything that was presented, it wasn't like he was listed as comma CPA, or, there was no indications on the town website or the Board of Finance information that he was a CPA. And my recollection is there was no requirement that the board include a CPA. I think one of the email from the mayor indicated there were, she seemed to imply there were CPAs on there, and a manager of a, former manager of a company or something like that. There was no evidence that I saw that he was holding himself out as a CPA. I mean, maybe people presumed he was because of all the signs in town, but I don't know. I didn't really find that particular point very compelling.
So do we want to delete that from the from the charge and the follow-up? I would say yes. Sounds like Martha would say yes, and Pete.
I would, yeah. And I just want to, my, part of my curiosity about it was that if there's a board that I'm on and I'm an attorney, and that the board is supposed to have at least one attorney on the board, and I'm, don't have my license anymore, it's been revoked or something, I think that's an offense, because that you're supposed to be an attorney on the board. That's kind of what I was saying. And I do agree with Pete. I think it was that the evidence that we have before us is that he was appointed to the board. But, I don't think it's particularly a strong part of this claim against him.
Okay.
I agree with what Martha and Pete have said. I think the evidence showed it is an appointed board. And it's true, the mayor's letter did seem to indicate that I got the feeling it's not required they have a CPA on the board. So, and that there also might be others. So I think overall it's better just to delete that charge.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment on that particular item? Anyone else have a comment on any other items?
I guess one of my questions was, I thought we were limited to $50,000 on the simple penalties, and this seems to be 55, so.
I think you're right, that I thought we were limited to 50.
I know that we were years ago on the board, we were addressing this issue before you guys were here, and it was 50.
All right, there's a follow-up item. That under that, let me pull it over here.
Can I just ask one clarification about what we just talked about? If in fact it's true that there's a $50,000 limit, do we need to make a suggestion to which number of a dollar amount we might want to reduce to get it to 50, or should we just leave that to cap?
So we take it from here, so we would want to do that. And it might shake out naturally as we go through the discussions, but if not, we should talk about that.
Okay.
The one that I was questioning was the regulation that the very last one, right before section 4 orders, G, it says he's engaged in gross negligence. That regulation, let me find the right screen, is under acts discreditable, and it's just not, we don't have that title there. But when we were talking with John, he had said that we couldn't do acts discreditable, and only the federal government or someone could do that. And I don't have any independent knowledge of that. I don't know if any of you do.
I remember that's what John said, and I also have a question about that particular item. There's a higher standard to prove gross negligence or recklessness than there is for other types of offenses. And I think it needs a little bit higher burden of proof, so we need to talk about that, or we could just delete that a whole little $3,000 part.
All right.
I'm not really sure what the gross negligence or recklessness is here. I suppose it could be deemed reckless to leave those signs up when you know that, you're not a CPA in good standing. Suppose it's reckless, but I would have a little trouble with that whole section there. Does anybody else have a good understanding of what the gross negligence or recklessness would be in his actions?
My thought under this category is the fact that he was made aware that he was, back in 2015, that he was made aware of his license expiring, certificate, and he still continued for the next 7 years to practice in this manner. And this is after signing a settlement agreement back in 2015.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's where that would gross negligence, reckless would fall under.
See, I see that as intentional, an intentional act to continue on, whereas reckless or negligence has sort of a different mindset.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm just reading it over.
So in looking at the regulations that, let me just pull those back up, that Now I've scrolled up and it's under discreditable acts. A licensee shall not commit any acts that reflects adversely on his or her fitness to engage in the practice of public accountancy, including or incompetency, including but not limited to gross negligence, recklessness, or repeated acts of recklessness in the licensee's record of professional practice. So that's the full sentence in that, if that helps. Do we want to leave that in, or do we want to take that out? That, or do we want to wait and discuss that later with John, who brought up about the discreditable acts?
I would say that the regulation that you just read really is talking about substantive, seems to be talking about substantive acts regarding actual, for example, tax return preparation, rather than some procedural act like not renewing your license. So I'm not sure. I'm certainly more than happy to wait on John, but I'm just not sure that that last penalty, it seems sort of problematic.
Could she have been talking about, Mr. Ross spoke to us that, and it was about, and I'm just being devil's advocate here, that, that the tax return, they couldn't get a response. So remember, that's how this whole thing started.
Yeah,
And would that rise to that level?
yeah, that might.
I mean, it might, but it's, well, yeah, I think it probably would. Because it repeated acts of negligence. I don't think he did a repeated act of negligence, but engaged in gross negligence, recklessness, or repeated act of negligence. I suppose it was gross negligence to do what he did, what Mr. Ross testified about that particular client of his. So I suppose it could fit.
Yeah.
We do have a lot here, and do we need to add more? Do we need this in there?
I think most of his stuff falls under the one that's just above that, you know, the 20-281 AA5, engaged in dishonesty and fraud in the practice of public accountancy, and the one above that, which is deceptive advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
So do we want to remove G, the gross negligence, recklessness, or repeated acts of negligence?
I say to be safe, yeah, because I think that might raise some questions. And I don't know that it's needed.
I agree with Martha.
I do also.
Okay. Anything else on the conclusions of law that we've got? Practicing public accountancy without a license, using the CPA, no firm license, using the CPA without a firm permit, deceptive advertising, and dishonesty and fraud in practice. That's what we have left. Any discussion on any of those sections?
Nope.
All right. So the order is to stop using the CPA. Can we all agree with that one?
Yes.
That to remove the signs, take down his social media, stop using the letterhead that says CPA, stop using it in his signature blocks. And then within 5 days, he's got to do that in 30 days. Within 5 days, let the Department of Consumer Protection know. Do we all agree with that?
Yes.
Mhm.
I add something to that. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read it on my phone and it's really small. So I would probably say remove all public display signs or designation CPA certified public accountant from all locations, including the shops at McDermott. Because I don't know if he has something at his house or somewhere else, a sign.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's a good.
All right, I've added that. So remove it from all locations, including the shops at McDermott, his social media, letterhead, and signature blocks. All right. The next one is about Torrington, and I think we agreed that we're taking that out.
Yes.
Yes.
The next one is the respondent is ordered to send by US mail within 30 days of the final decision, a copy of the final decision, and order every person or entity for whom he had prepared tax returns or provide professional accounting services during the period January 1, 2020 to May 1, 2022. All right, so that he's got to send this decision to them and then come back to us within 5 days of doing that. And he's sending it by regular US mail.
Are there any privacy concerns with him providing a list of clients?
Yes, I think so, not being an attorney.
I mean, I'd like to see him do it. I just don't know if we need an attorney general's opinion as to whether we can ask for that information to be provided.
Do we need the details?
or-
I mean, is that
yeah.
relevant for us?
Well, it kind of holds him to it,
Mhm.
because I mean, he's slippery. It kind of holds him to it. Just thinking out loud, I know that when like state agencies, like if they do an audit, Department of Labor, something like that, they can come in and look at lawyers' files and that kind of thing. So they get to see the names of clients, I suppose.
Would that make it FOI-able?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
Okay,
I mean, I know there was a guy in Wallingford, an attorney who got in trouble and, they took his license away for a while and they told him he had to notify all of his clients of, this, he was suspended for 11 months or something like that. And I don't think they asked for a client list. And I heard through the grapevine that he didn't notify anyone. So I don't know for what that's worth, but I kind of thought it was good to make him supply the name and address, so it could be, verified. But I just wasn't sure whether we can ask for that information or not.
okay, let me check with the Attorney General's office on that and along with the civil penalties. Any other discussion on that section?
Just a typo, I think it should say fourth line down, entity for whom he had prepared a tax return or provided with a D.
Okay,
Professionally.
yes, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Should we ask, him to swear that he hasn't done any financial statements that in this time that because he doesn't have a firm permit, so he would skip through the would it do any good or serve any purpose that as far as the ethics of not having, if he's done them, not having the proper peer reviews and things like that. I'm looking at you, Pete. You can't see that.
I don't know, can you, as part of the orders, can you ask him for an affidavit? I don't know, just seemed.
Would
Yeah,
it,
you can. Yeah, I think
You
you can. Idea.
would it
um,
serve any purpose if he's gonna have to give up his license anyway, that,
I mean, I thought he had stated that he didn't do any financial statements. That's one of his excuses for not renewing his licenses, because he didn't
Right.
think he needed to renew the license because he wasn't.
he
Yeah,
had
that's what he
stated that. He
said.
hadn't sworn to that as far as. I can
Okay,
see,
all right.
But he had stated that.
But he also stated that he'd never been in trouble, right, with the board.
That's true. Good point. So,
That was my favorite of his misdeeds, I think. It's like, oh, I've never been in trouble. Really? Institutional memo says 2015.
All right, so I won't add that in. I just, that was
I don't,
just,
I would add it in if you don't think it's a problem. I think we should get him on record. I'm fine with that.
all right.
I just comment about the issue of publication. I thought that maybe that was a way to get the word out, local area too, about the decision being published.
So I will ask that one. We have to ask the Attorney General. Of decision. Okay, I'll ask that. Although we don't put it in here because that's something that we follow up on. And these are things that he follows up on. And then we go into the penalties. If we've taken that one section out, we've automatically taken 3,000 out, so we're down to 52. What are you thinking about the penalties that are there? The $9,000 for the license and practicing without a license, the $211,000 for a firm without a license, and then practicing as a firm without a license, and $5,000 for deceptive advertising, and $7,000 for dishonesty and fraud in the practice of public accounting, accountancy, including failure to comply with the terms of a settlement agreement entered into with the board. Are you all right with those amounts?
Oh, we need to reduce it by 2,000 still, right?
We think we do, or we
Yeah.
could ask and decide later.
Okay.
I just assume reduce it by 2,000 now, rather than them come back and say, oh, yes, you have to, then we have to decide what to do.
All right, what would you like to reduce?
Some of these, the sections are slightly different, which is why you have the different amounts, but some of them are relatively redundant. Having it as a kernel or gist of it, that it's holding say a person out as a CPA when they are not licensed or certified to do so. So we could even take, for the two 11,000s, we could make it 10,000 each, and then we'd be there. That's just, that's just a suggestion.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Although it is tied into a number of years. It's, it looks like it's $1,000 a year for the
True.
first, each one is the 9,000s and the 11,000s are geared to the years. But I suppose that's the only way you should do it, because I wouldn't like to see it taken off of the deceptive advertising, because
Right.
like the worst things he did, you know, so I wouldn't want that one to go down any further.
All right.
Can we put higher amounts in and just put an allowance against it, like a negative to say that it's limited by statute, or
We could, I would,
I don't know.
discount.
Because I agree, I kind of feel like the last two are the ones that are really,
Yeah.
the deceptive advertising and so forth. That's more.
So do we want to just reduce it at the bottom by the 2,000 and keep the 11 in there?
Where are we gonna reduce it?
Just off the bottom, we're gonna say reduce.
Also 5.
Oh,
Yeah, I think that, so you're gonna add it up to 50,000 and say, you know, reduced by statute to $50,000 cap or something like that, right?
All right.
Excuse me. Marcia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
My whole connection just dropped out for the last 10 minutes.
oh,
It took me 10 minutes to get back, so I missed all,
All right.
anyway, so you can hear me now, though?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that.
You missed some very exciting and interesting points.
That's twice this connection's conked on me here, so my apologies.
Anything else that we want to talk about on the money section? All right.
We're allowed to go on a, like the bracket on it. Should we go higher on the last two then, or? I mean, the 5,000 and the 7,000, I don't know.
So increase them up just only to reduce back to the 50, just to make the point, right?
That's what I'm suggesting. I mean, I would throw out $10,000 each or something, so. But that's just me.
I like that. And then reduce it, that was a 5, and reduce it by 10 at the bottom. All right, the rest of you good with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm good with that. I just want to make sure, since Bob apparently was off for a while, that there's something on the record that we decided to delete that last original 3,000 for gross negligence and recklessness. Just so there's something on the record about that. I don't know when Bob lost the feed.
Bob, will you be taking the minutes from the video, or I mean, from the recording? Because it's still recording, correct?
Right, it's still recording, so it should still have, even though I was off, it was still recording, because I joined back on and it was still going, so.
Okay,
Recording was in progress, so I should have it, Carla.
okay.
All right. So we're at 50,000. We've upped the deceptive practicing, advertising, and the dishonesty and fraud. And then we've reduced the cap to the 50 with a negative 10,000. All right. There's no place in here that we talk about that first penalty that he never paid.
Oh, yeah.
Should we talk about that? Should we say that he also has to pay the penalty from, or are we double accounting for that because it's included here? Maybe we're double accounting for that.
Maybe.
All right,
the
I guess we
First
have,
time, yeah.
all right.
Is that an attorney general question, Marcia?
I can ask. All right. So he's gonna pay that, after talking about money, we talk about revoking his license and his certificate immediately, that he doesn't do that, we do that. Do we want to do that?
I say yes.
I'm sorry, I lost you there for a second. You said, did we want to do that? And I didn't hear the first part. I apologize.
It's about revoking his license and his certificate. Do we want to revoke both of those? It's a section here that we, and I just wanted a discussion on, make sure we agree with that, or if we disagree with that. And Danny so far has agreed with that.
Well,
Thank
he
you.
doesn't have a license to revoke, right? Because he's
Not a-
been practicing without one.
Yeah, not a current license that,
It does make it more clear that whatever license or certificate he had is no longer valid. It just reiterates that point. So I don't see any harm in leaving it in.
Mhm.
so that we'll keep that. And then the last section, it's hereby ordered that the respondent or any entity that the respondent holds a position of ownership, control, or management be barred from applying for a CPA firm permit in the future.
Hmm.
So he's not going to be a CPA, but he can't be a non-CPA owner or manager or any other type of control.
Makes sense.
All right. So I'm going to follow up with the civil penalties. Are they limited to 50,000? Can we ask for a list of clients that he's notified, and would that make it FOIable? Can we publicize the decision? And should we make the first penalty be paid? And then we had talked last week after the hearing about notifying the IRS. This wouldn't be in his, but do we want to notify the IRS that he's been practicing without a PTIN? And I think Danny is our IRS guy. Is that something that we should be doing?
I believe so. We should make them aware.
Any other discussion on this document that, so I'll make these changes. I'll send out an updated draft. I'll contact the Attorney General's office and we'll get some answers to that and discuss it again at our next meeting.
Marcia,
Yes.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Would you include me on that list, please? The summary of to kind of supplement, help me with the minutes. On,
Okay.
It would help to lay that out. Thank you.
I will do that. Okay.
Marcia, do you know if there's a time, like, is there an amount of time where we have to get respond back, or?
I will find out, see if we have to set a
Okay.
special meeting.
Yeah, I'm just.
And Bob, could you send me the contact information for our Attorney General contact that we're
Yep.
supposed to be asking these
I'll-
questions?
I will ask Kat for that. I don't know who that is, but I'll find out.
Perfect. Perfect. Any other comments on this before we move forward? All right, we're up to comments or concerns of any person here today. Cindy, do you want to talk now or you've had enough?
Nope, I don't have anything to say. Thank you, though.
All right. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Tim made the motion and Pete seconded it.
All right, I seconded.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
All right,
Thank you for
See you
handling.
guys.
Jeff.
All right.
right.
Have a
Good
good
job.
day.
Thank you.
all right. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye.